You're standing right in front of them. You've met at least 3 times, maybe 4. But the name? It's gone. It's not even on the tip of your tongue. It's as if it was never recorded, cleanly, completely erased. And the worst part isn't just forgetting. It's what happens in the next 12 seconds. You skillfully tilt your body, you wait for someone else to say their name, or you pray for your phone to ring miraculously, or for a building to collapse nearby. We've all been there. But the people who do this most often, the chronic, constant name forgetters, they aren't careless, they aren't rude, and they certainly aren't unintelligent. Something very specific is happening in their brains, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what it is, and you'll never feel that specific kind of guilt again. When you meet someone new, your brain is doing an incredible amount of work simultaneously. It's reading their face, recording their tone of voice, decoding the context, calculating their place in the social hierarchy. Do they like you? Do you like them? What do you need to say next? It's a massive workload. The short-term memory in your prefrontal cortex, your working memory, is juggling about 6 things at once, and in that exact moment of cognitive chaos, someone hands you a single arbitrary sound. Hello, I'm Mark. Mark. Mark means nothing to you, my friend. It doesn't connect to anything you already know. It doesn't trigger a concept. There's no image, no feeling, no association. It just hangs there, alone, in a brain that doesn't have the time to nourish it. In 1987, psychologists McWeeny and Ellis published a fascinating study. They discovered what's called the Baker-Baker paradox. They told one group that the person in the photo was a baker, the profession. They told another group that the person's last name was Baker. Days later, those who learned the profession remembered it much easier than those who learned the name. Same word, completely different memories. Because the word baker ignites a network: flour, bread, early mornings, warmth. But as a last name, it ignites nothing. It hangs there, rootless. Names are by nature semantically empty, and your brain, that efficient machine, records and keeps things that carry meaning. Think about the last funeral you attended. You remember the scent of the flowers, that deep silence in the room, who cried the most, a sentence someone said that pierced deep into your chest. You don't remember what was written in the funeral program, because your brain made a decision about what was important without consulting you. It wasn't the printed text. It never was. Names are the funeral program. Everything else about a person, that's the ceremony itself. But now we come to the uncomfortable part, because this is more personal than most people want to admit. A significant portion of chronic name forgetters are people who are deeply immersed in their own minds during social interactions, not in a conceited way, but in an anxious way. While the other person is introducing themselves, you are thinking about something else. Am I making enough eye contact? Is this handshake too firm? Did I just interrupt them? The name enters briefly, then that internal monologue drives right over it. In 1973, psychologist Malcolm Brenner documented this. He called it the next-in-line effect. People waiting for their turn to speak in a group remembered the person who spoke immediately before them dramatically less, because their minds had already moved half a step ahead, mentally preparing their turn. Socially anxious people, or those with high self-awareness, are constantly stuck in this mode. They are never fully here. They are always half a step ahead. If this is you, friend, here's the real frame. You don't have a memory problem. You have a preoccupation problem. Those are 2 very different things. And for those on the other side, the ones whose names were forgotten, that feeling is real. It lands like a small but sharp message. You weren't important enough to stick. That's how it feels. Even if it's completely wrong, the brain hears it that way. But the person who forgot your name likely thought about the conversation afterwards. They remember what you said about your sister. They remember that specific detail on your face when you laughed. Maybe you had a unique perspective that stuck in their mind. They were there, my friend. They just weren't fully there for the name part. And do you know the most misunderstood thing about memory? Memory isn't a recording device. Your brain doesn't store experiences like a hard drive. It stores impressions, emotions, patterns, fragments, and it prioritizes ruthlessly. High emotion? Recorded. Surprising? Recorded. Connected to something you already know? Recorded. A single arbitrary syllable handed to you while you're trying to look normal in front of a stranger? Good luck. Most people who easily forget names have something else in common. They're highly associative thinkers. Their memory is richly contextual. They remember stories and emotions. They remember the expression on someone's face while they were saying something important. Ask them what someone wore at a party 3 years ago. They can tell you. Okay, now ask for the name of the person standing next to them. Blank space. Because their brain was cataloging everything except the label. This isn't a mental flaw, it's just a specific architecture. It's much better suited for storytelling, emotional resonance, and the kind of listening that makes people feel truly understood. It's just less suited for the mechanical task of holding a word under social pressure. This doesn't mean you shouldn't try to get better. Now, what should you do? Let's talk about that. When you meet someone, repeat their name immediately. Associate it with someone you already know or a visual anchor. This works because you are manually doing what your brain refuses to do automatically. You are building a bridge. But that cycle of shame, that quiet, chronic belief that forgetting names makes you someone who doesn't care, someone passing through the world without really recording anyone, that part is wrong, and it needs to be said clearly. Because many people carry this without ever questioning where it came from or if it's actually true. You aren't absent or dismissive. You're someone whose brain prioritizes differently, who gets caught in their own internal storm, and who sometimes fails at the single least interesting thing about a person, the arbitrary sound assigned to them by their parents before they had done a single thing worth remembering. The name was always the least important part. The things you remember about people, the real things, the texture of who they are, that part was always there, my friend. It was always there. Send this video to someone who blames themselves for forgetting names. Write in the comments. I'll read them all. And don't forget to subscribe.